rate. Syringes distributed, they had 66% returned. After the pilot, so they had about 4,879 enrollees, so they had increased the number of participants, and they had 6,600 exchanges, so fewer encounters with clients. They distributed 825,000 syringes and collected 677,000 syringes, so an 82% redemption rate. So they saw an increase in the number of syringes being distributed that then were returned to the SSP. And I believe this is the marker that they're using to demonstrate that the program is successful, that they're increasing the rate by which syringes are returned. The City of Bangor has stood up a different approach. They have utilized, and both of these programs are funded through opioid settlement funds that are distributed to the municipality itself. So the City of Bangor has awarded an agreement, a service agreement with Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness. Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness is also a certified SSP. And Wabanaki Public Health and Wellness, they have stood up a hotline where people can call and report improperly disposed of syringes in public places, and Wabanaki will go out and do that cleanup. And that is how they have approached that program. They funded this program, I believe it was for 1 year, but I could check on that, and about $66,000 was awarded to that program to Wabanaki to do that service. So that is the brief summary of the syringe disposal programs that other municipalities have stood up. In terms of the question on average visits among syringe service program enrollees, this data were published, they were published in our 2022 report, and that was what Mr. Smith had quoted last time we were here together. And in that year, we identified, we used a formula to calculate the average number of visits, looking at total enrollees in an SSP. So each enrollee has to enroll participants, and they are sequentially assigning them an identification number, and they're then reporting to us the total number of enrollees they have. And a participant can enroll at multiple SSPs. There's no deduplication between SSPs. And then they also report to us the number of exchanges that they're doing. So the number of encounters they have with clients where there's an exchange of syringes. So we then calculated the average number of visits by looking at total exchanges over the total number of enrollees. So it's a crude measure. It's not deduplicated. There could be, and under an overestimation, many clients may come more than this average. Others may come fewer times. So it's just an opportunity to generally estimate the average number of visits per enrollee. So you'll see in 2022, I'm referencing the table in the second handout, there were 3 SSPs enrollees visited the SSP about 3 times on average per year. And then in 2023, we had about 3.7, so almost 4 visits per year per enrollee. 2024, and this year we reported a great increase in the number of enrollees, so here we're only seeing 2 visits per enrollee per year. And so far in 2025, these data are preliminary. We're closing out our reporting year right now, and we report to the legislature each year, so it's up through October. And when the data presented here are through September, we're looking at 4 visits per enrollee per year. So generally that gives you an idea of how frequently a person may visit an SSP. And again, it may be duplicative of individuals across SSPs, and it may be very much a large varying degree between participants. Some may visit more frequently, others may visit less frequently. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from the council? Council Platt.
Thank you for that follow-up from some of the questions from 2 weeks ago. My question is on funding mechanisms. You mentioned the opioid settlement funds that come into municipalities. I think those have come up in different arenas in front of this council. Are you aware of any other budgetary sources other than taxing our citizens to help pay for these things? For example, the agency that funds SSPs, are there any provisions to fund municipalities in cleanup efforts that you're aware of?
So if Mr. Smith were here, he could answer this far more eloquently. There was a bill put forth to the legislature this past year. It actually passed and was voted to go forward. It's pending the governor's signature at this time. In that bill, it is to fund a municipal syringe cleanup program. And both municipalities as well as SSPs could apply for these funds that would be made available through the state legislature and the state budget. So at this point, we do not have any specific designated fund for municipal cleanup programs. One thing that many SSPs do, it's not required as part of their certification, but many SSPs conduct community cleanup activities. Many public works departments have, like Portland has stood up training for their public works department to help equip them and feel comfortable doing cleanups. So I think there's been different approaches to this, and I think funding is one of those pieces that can be varying through in each municipality.
Other questions from the council? So I have a couple follow-up questions. So on this first chart that deals with the returns in Portland, these are only, so let me go back first. Syringes aren't marked in some way that they're easily identifiable to a program, right? They're just ubiquitous syringes.
Yes, they're purchased in the open market. And,
right. And so the numbers here in Portland, these represent the returns to the SSP, but that's not necessarily, so if I look at the number for this last year, there's 150,000 gap between distributed and collected. That 150,000 gap doesn't necessarily mean that these were discarded. They could have been returned through other means, Sharps boxes. I know Portland has quite a network of Sharps boxes throughout the city. I just want to make sure I understand that. That's not the total number that were collected in Portland, it's just the ones that were returned to the SSP.
That's correct. That's right. The municipality also has community sharp boxes. People who receive syringes through an SSP can also dispose of them safely, similar to what I described when I was last here, using a laundry detergent, a hard plastic container, sealing it with duct tape, writing on it, so you can dispose of it in your trash safely. So yes, that's definitive. These, while they're counting, generally the number of syringes distributed are counted specifically, and then the number of syringes collected are sometimes approximate based on them coming into a Sharps container that contain X amount, so you kind of estimate. For certain, some of the syringes collected may not have been distributed by that same SSP. But generally, I think the SSP is looking to increase the return rate.
Thank you. And the other question I had on both of these, both Bangor and Portland's numbers, it talks about enrollees. And in the SSP programs, is it a periodic enrollment, or if you enroll once with the SSP, you're always on the roll?
Correct. So it's the latter. So once you enroll with the SSP, you're recognized as a participant of that SSP. So and you can enroll with more than one SSP if you so choose. And if an enrollee, a participant in an SSP, is not able to recall their information about that enrollment, so the number that would be assigned to them, for example, they can look that up to try to avoid the duplication. But it's understood that there may be duplication across SSPs, and that because it's a rolling enrollment, it's cumulative over time, and there isn't necessarily an attrition like some sort of mechanism by SSPs are deducting enrollees off their records.
Right. So I think it's important to understand that when we're looking at these numbers, because there could be people that have been enrolled some SSPs have been in operation for quite a while now, and there could be numbers of people that, in their count, that are no longer active users.
That's right, yes. And I believe our SSP partners can speak very specifically to this. My understanding would be that over time, the pattern of use among an individual enrolled in SP would change. That someone who is enrolled when they started out, maybe several years ago, may not be current, but we are tracking both.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other, Council Walker?
Did I hear you correctly when you said if they give you back the needle is 10 cents or a syringe, whatever it was?
Yes, the redemption program in Portland, it is an opportunity for the participant to receive 10 cents for each syringe that is returned to the SSP.
Are they the only people that's going to receive the 10 cents, or is that going to be open to anyone that brings them in?
The person participating in the redemption program must be enrolled as a participant at the SSP. So it's only SSP participants who can benefit from the redemption program.
And that there's potentially a lot of ways to do redemption programs, right? That happens to be the structure of the program that Portland's running.
That's right. And I believe they modeled it off a program that was found in Massachusetts and Boston, and we can look into that for you if you'd like.
Other questions or comments from the council? Thank you very much. I think the next presenter is going to be Spurwink. And if you can introduce yourself, there's a microphone here if you don't want to sit at the table. You can just click it on, and if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, thank you very much for inviting us. I'm Paul Vinsel. I'm an addiction medicine physician working in Spurwink. I wanted to talk to you today about the science of addiction. So I'm going to give a talk that I've given to several groups in the past. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. And she's going to tell me when I have 5 minutes left. So I wanted to start with just asking the question, because I think this is important in the sciences. Why would someone start using drugs? And in the interest of time, I'm going to answer it myself. So there's many reasons why people start using. Probably the biggest one when we're young is peer pressure. Certainly that was important for me when I was a teenager. The other thing is if family members can sometimes introduce people to substance use. Sometimes people use it because they see people using and they seem to be having fun and they want to join in that fun. So they're looking basically to get high. Then there's another group that I think is really important, and these are people who use, all of these are using drugs to obtain a positive. But there's a lot of people who start using drugs to eliminate a negative. So people with a history of mental illness, people with a history of family trauma may use substances just to try to get that out of their mind. So I'm just going to put that as post-trauma. So this is the reason why people start using drugs and use the first time. But I think a more interesting question is actually, why do people use it a second time, or why do they continue using it? And I think that's a more important question. And the basic reason is that the drugs work. If you were using it to have a good time, to get high, it probably worked. If you were using it to eliminate a negative, to forget that family trauma, to just escape for a while, it probably worked to do that. Now, because of our genetic makeup, certain people are genetically more likely to get a positive effect from substance use, and other people won't get the same effect. So some people may smoke marijuana, really enjoy that high. Some people may use it and not like that feeling at all. So fortunately, those people have a lot less risk of developing an addiction. So I want to say, why does it work? And it all has to do with what we call neurotransmitters. And the neurotransmitter that is the most important for substance use is called dopamine. And dopamine has become kind of popular recently. A lot of people know a little bit about it, but I want to tell you why its effect is so strong. So all drugs of abuse eventually lead to an increase in dopamine levels in the brain. And dopamine is what we call a neurotransmitter. So when one nerve wants to tell another nerve to have fun or to feel joy, they do that by nerve 1 giving nerve 2 dopamine. And that tells nerve 2 to feel joy. Okay? So we all have dopamine, we all feel joy. And this is going to be time. And this is going to be your dopamine level, okay? Now we all have dopamine, and our typical level is about 60 to 100. Okay? So that you and I are sitting around and we have dopamine in us. If you're having a good time, it's probably up about 100. If you're just kind of vegging out, it's probably about 60. There's ways we can increase our dopamine level. So if we eat a good meal, we go out and have a good cheeseburger and we really like that, that's going to increase our dopamine level. It's going to go up to about 150. If we're meeting with our family on Thanksgiving and having a good time with family community, that's also going to go up to about 150. If you combine that with good food, which we usually do on Thanksgiving, that's even better. If we have sex, that's going to go up to about 200. So why do these activities increase our dopamine level? Well, if you think about it, we need these activities to survive as a species. We need to eat for sustenance. We need to have community so that if you're in trouble, if your house is on fire, someone can come and help put out that fire. And we need to have sex in order to procreate. Without these things, we wouldn't function as a species. So therefore, it makes sense that the brain would say, these are pleasurable activities. So what happens when we take drugs? This is in color. So if you take opioids, opioids don't directly affect dopamine, it's indirect. So if you take opioids, you're going to go up to about 300. Higher than having sex. Higher than having sex with a cheeseburger. If you take cocaine, because of the way cocaine works in the brain, you're going to go up to about 500. So cocaine is really increasing the dopamine levels. If you take methamphetamine, because of how it works, you're going to go up to about 1,000, actually up to about 1,400. So these drugs bring basically instant joy to the person who has them, who takes them. If you can get instant joy by using cocaine, why are you going to bother with community? Why are you going to bother with eating? Why are you even going to bother with having sex? Because you can get much more joy by just taking this drug. So let's talk about this more over a longer period of time, because this is where people get into trouble. Taking it the first time, second time, people aren't getting into trouble, but as they take it over time, they get into big trouble. So again, we're going to go do dopamine levels over time, and this is multiple use. So we start out at 100 at our baseline, and we use cocaine. So we're going to go up to about 500. And then the cocaine's going to wear off. It only lasts a few hours. It's going to come down. And unfortunately, it doesn't just go to baseline. It goes below baseline, here. So this person says, boy, I was up here. My dopamine level was 500. I was feeling tremendous joy. Now I don't even feel as good as when I started. So I'm going to take the cocaine again, and I'm going to go up. Unfortunately, and we'll describe why this occurs, you don't go up to the same height. You go a little less. And when you come down from it, you go even further down. And this cycle just keeps going. You never get to where you were and where you want to be, and the lows keep getting lower, and eventually you have to use just to feel normal. Just to feel like you and I feel right now, that person has to use a drug to feel this way. This is addiction. This is withdrawal. Withdrawal is, patients describe it to me as the most horrible feeling they've ever had. They'll do anything to avoid withdrawal. So let's talk about why this occurs. I think I can do this. So we're going to draw two nerves. This is nerve A, and this is nerve B. And this is how our central nervous system works. There's thousands of neurotransmitters. A lot of them we haven't even discovered yet. That's nerve B. Nerve A is going to talk to nerve B, and nerve A is going to tell nerve B to feel joy. So nerve A is going to release dopamine, and it releases it into this area between the two nerves. It's called the synapse. It's going to release it. Nerve A can control how much it releases. The other thing it can control is nerve A will take that dopamine and bring it back. That's called reuptake. So if nerve A feels that there's too much dopamine in that synapse, it will take some back by reuptaking. Nerve B is going to sense this dopamine by what we call receptors. These little blocks. And just by random choice, this dopamine molecule will fit into these receptors. The more receptors that are filled, the more joy nerve B will feel. So this is normal. What happens if we add a drug? Cocaine works by eliminating the reuptake of dopamine. So cocaine is a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. So now nerve A is releasing dopamine into the synapse, but it's not taking it back. So there's more dopamine here in the synapse. Because there's more dopamine in the synapse, more receptors are going to be filled. And nerve B is going to feel more joy. That would be great, except that nerve B says, that's not good. Nerve B, the brain wants homeostasis. The brain likes when our dopamine level goes up to 150, 200, when we have food, when we have sex, when we have community. But it doesn't like it when it goes up to 500. It realizes that's dangerous. So the way nerve B controls that is it just eliminates receptors. It takes away receptors. So then when nerve A is releasing a whole bunch of dopamine, there's only so many receptors it can fill. So that's why the more often you take it, your high is never as high as it was. Then we take away the cocaine. So now nerve A is reuptaking dopamine again. So there's less dopamine in the synapse. If you have less dopamine in the synapse, you're going to have less receptors filled. And even if you fill every receptor, you have less receptors. That's why the low, when you take the cocaine away, is lower than baseline. So it's really, addiction is all about the science of our brain. It's really a brain disease. And that's how we treat it. So that's why when you see a person who has addiction, the idea of just saying, well, just stop, really doesn't work. And I was an emergency physician for about 35 years. I saw multiple people with addiction. And I had done that work for probably 20 to 25 years before I learned this. This was not something we learned in medical school or in residency. And that gave me a whole different attitude towards my patients with addiction. And I no longer just said, well, you should just stop, because that just doesn't work. That's really all what my presentation is today, is just to give you a little understanding of what addiction is and what our citizens are going through when they're suffering addiction. I'd love to take questions.
Any questions from the council? Council Platt.
Thanks. I guess I had a question about, just from your perspective in your role, let me back up. As I listen to all this, I mean, here we are getting a lot of science from you guys, and I'm not going to spend any energy debating with you guys. You're the professionals. If 10 needles are better than a 1-to-1, that's what I'm going to believe. To me, this debate for us is going to be about funding, and how do we make sure there's enough money to pay for cleanups and to make sure that our tax-paying citizens who aren't addicted are not put in harm's way. So as I think about so I just wanted to just preface with that. As I think about all this, what I'm taking away is these needle exchanges, one of the primary purposes is to create contact with these folks and to get them into the system. So my question for you is, what, in your opinion, not even scientifically, in your opinion, what are some of the best outcomes that we could be looking at with these contact points? Getting people housing, getting people healthcare providers so they don't die on us. You know, what are some of the outcomes we could have?
Yeah, that's a really
folks?
good question. The syringe service program that we have at Spurwink, I'm in connection with them. I talk to them at least once a week. They send their clients to me if those clients are ready for recovery. And we do know that patients or clients that use syringe service programs are more likely to get into recovery and get into treatment than those that are not. And when I get a patient that tells me they have used syringe service programs, I'm very excited because that tells me that this patient is interested in their health. So that's going to, you know, you're starting above the baseline for what I'm used to.
Other questions from the council? Thank you very much. I believe Sperlink has some additional information. Sorry, Councilor Cowan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on Councilor Platt's comments and your response, I'm curious. So we know, and we saw some data. I think it was 5 times more likely to get treatment if they were involved with an SSP. Has there been any data yet, or from Portland or for others, where the exchange, the reimbursement program has elevated that at all, or is that more? Does that benefit even getting people interested to come and become part of the SSP? So,
Okay.
Sorry, can you rephrase the question?
sure. I'm just curious with the we know SSPs in general, people are more likely to go to treatment eventually. I'm just curious if the redemption program is thought to be almost a motivator to get people in the door in the first place to the SSP. How are we motivating people to get? And I guess that's what I'm curious, because that creates that contact that Councilor Platts was referring to.
Certainly, you could look at the data from Portland to see, I'm just looking in my papers here if I can find it, but I do believe they saw an increase in the total number of enrollees after they stood up the redemption program. So in the case of, we could hypothesize that because they had stood up the redemption program, there's this opportunity to receive 10 cents per syringe that's returned. There was an increased number of participants that asked to enroll, and therefore they became engaged in SSP activities. So potentially that it is, always ways of bringing them in the door, having that conversation, talking through what their needs are, not just, okay, here are my syringes, I'd like my 10 cents. So anytime we can engage is really what we see as a success.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Walker?
Yes, are we looking at more than 3 or 4 of these types of places in our area here in Auburn, or are we looking at maybe 1 is enough? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll stay up here until. So currently there is one SSP that's certified in Lewiston, and that's Spurwink. They're here, and you'll hear from them. And I believe that's the only SSP that's operating in Androscoggin County, or at least in the Lewiston-Auburn area. There may be another SSP that's in the western region here. What's enough? It's very difficult to say. What is the need of the community? I think that there had been 2 SSPs that were operating in this area. One recently became decertified and closed, and I do believe Spurwink has seen an increase in their number of clients that they're seeing, number of enrollees, number of exchanges. So there is an increased demand for SSP services that Spurwink is currently meeting. But yes, I think it's very difficult to know what the true need is in the community, but having at least an SSP available to community members that need this service, particularly that they can access it in an environment where it's open and meets them where they're at, I think is really important.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, we could move on. I believe Spurwink's going to provide some information about their current SSP operation.
All set? Hello, I'm Ernestine Peralt, and I'm currently the supervisor of the community outreach programs at Spurwink at 1155 Lisbon Street. I oversee 9 grants that are boots on the ground style of delivering service to Lewiston, Auburn, Lisbon, and actually some of the programs encompass the entire Androscoggin County. That's their jurisdiction. So we're out on the streets, we're in encampments, hospitals, jails, wherever people are, in order to outreach them and connect them to supports and services. One of the programs that I oversee is the Harm Reduction Clinic, which is located at 1155 Lisbon Street. Give you a little bit of history about that program. It started about 4 years ago, and it is started with 14 hours a week. And we just had one very part-time individual, and I filled in all of the other hours when people would show up. Even though we were 14 hours available, we provided a service for 40 hours a week. And then you flash forward to last July, we were able to get additional funding, so we were able to then, now we have 3 individuals that work in the SSP, very specifically, that's their role, and we are open Monday through Friday, 40 hours each week to provide, syringe services. So a little bit of sort of like the typical goings-on, I thought might be best just kind of to showcase you that we're more than just a syringe exchange. It's really not a fair assessment of all that we do. When you mentioned earlier about sort of how do we draw people in, we currently have about 72 ways in which we draw people in, and I'm going to demonstrate some of those for you. Each one of these items is a way to engage with people, to draw them in, to get them to come in, to talk with you, to earn trust, collaboration, relationships. So some of these items, I'm not going to go through obviously 73, we don't have time for that, but to give you an idea, so this is a wound care kit. This will kind of take care of just about every kind of wound that we're finding that people are experiencing, particularly if they're unhoused, but even folks that aren't. If this could be wounds that are related to substance use, or it could be other, first aid needs that they have. So there's a variety of different products and options and whatnot in there. This alone can draw a person into an SSP. They don't even have to be using drugs. They can just come in just purely for free wound care and whatnot, because these are expensive, to be able to have in your pharmacy at home. Narcan. This is obviously an essential ingredient to keeping people alive. And you don't have to be a drug user to be appreciate having Narcan around. You could be caring for someone that uses substances. You could have, a child that's nearby. You could have even your pet, believe it or not. Police officers have used, with their canines, they've used Narcan oftentimes as well for exposure. So there's 2 kits in one box. Some people can have as many of these as like. So we have people that come in and get a case of Narcan for a variety of different reasons. And there's instructions. We also demonstrate that to them as well. And we've given a lot of Narcan out to the generalized public through distribution, but also we have provided a lot of trainings, sometimes to just everyday folks that want to know how to use this. We have hygiene kits. This is just a little bit of everything to help a person with basic hygiene. That in itself also can be just one reason as to why someone comes in, for basic products to be able to help themselves stay clean and take care of, dental and other kinds of items. We have safe sex supplies as well as family planning. There are also products for, like feminine hygiene products, you name it. There's a little bit of everything in here, as well as materials. Almost everything that we give out, there's always some sort of instructional or support or how to get more if it's not us, connections to getting help for them. maybe, a clinic or any kind of resources online or, anywhere that they can also continue to help themselves for each one of these kinds of supplies and each one of these items. So it isn't just come in and we'll give you what you need. It's also about educating them as well as supporting them for continue to meet these needs on their own. Lots of resources. I couldn't even tell you, there's probably 73 just in this bag alone. These are resources that my staff spend countless hours every single day, on the regular, trying to continue to find resources for people, for anywhere from housing resources to treatment resources, to where to go for vaccinations, anything really. Because really, there are a lot of needs out there that people have and might want to be able to know where can I get these. Most of these resources are free to the public, so we try to pride ourselves on that because that is an obvious barrier. Many of them also are, you don't need insurance in order to occupy them and to utilize them, as well as that they are little to no wait lists. So we try really hard to capitalize on the idea that when someone says they want help, we can't just say to them, well, that's great that you arrived at that destination, but there's a 3-month waiting list. So we try to give very tangible resources and connections to people that will help them today. Let's see what else is in our Mary Poppins bag. There are xylazine and fentanyl test strips. It's important, obviously, for people to basically know what they're getting themselves into for the drug supply. These are, we show them how to test their substances, but also there's information there on what to look for if you've had exposure to each of these substances as well. We also do HIV and Hep C rapid testing, so they can come and be tested for those particular illnesses, and we can also send them in directions where if they test positive, then they can go for a qualitative test. We connect them to those resources and support as well. Again, information on what to look for, all the prep and whatnot for medications that go afterwards. There are overdose prevention. Part of my jurisdiction that I have is we have the Androscoggin County contract for the options program, which is opioid response. There's liaisons in every state. Androscoggin County has 4, and that's part of my team, so we're always trying to connect people to those resources. Sharps containers, this is essential, obviously, for probably all the reasons why we're having this discussion. We have anywhere from this to 19-gallon size, and we give them free. So, brain injury screenings, there are more than 50% chance that if you've overdosed from substances that you might also have a TBI. So we do brain injury screenings for folks, have conversations with them, and connect them to resources as well to be able to help themselves. We're coming into winter, so we give out supplies to withstand the cold. So there's hand warmers, foot warmers, there's socks, hats, gloves, blankets. That sometimes is just one reason as to why someone might come in. Again, not even wanting other services, but just to be able to obtain those supplies. We have COVID tests, still getting those out, those still being requested. We always are supplying snacks, drinks, and whatnot. We have a lending library. When I started this, people were concerned about people stealing books. I said, please steal these books. These are helpful books. So we have quite a lending library. Lots of resources and magazines, Journey magazine, of course, which many people know about, which promotes recovery and whatnot. What am I missing? Oh, we do hand out syringes. It's important to know. The reason why I list that last is really, it's very intentional because I want people to understand that all of these ways, as well as probably more, are ways that SSPs kind of support the community in the way that we draw people in. It sometimes just starts with one of these products. It just starts with one of these connections, one of these services. And over the course of time, you're building a relationship with an individual. The key is to get them in as often as possible to engage with my staff. All of my staff are recovery coaches. They're very committed, obviously, to engaging with folks, building that relationship, and continuously talking about sort of next steps that a person can do to help themselves. Some of our basic numbers that I think it's important to kind of talk about is that since the other SSP closed just about 3 months ago now, we've had an uptake that we weren't prepared for, I'll be honest. We went from serving about 30 people a month probably early this year, January, February, and now we're serving about 150 people a month. That's a big change for us. And so we're quite busy. But the exciting part of that is that more people obviously are engaging in services. They're engaging in, connections with my staff, and more people obviously are being served and helped in this community. We know we're serving people from Auburn, even in Lewiston. We know that people are. It doesn't. It's not going to stop them from, getting help just because there isn't an SSP currently in Auburn. They're coming over. We're engaging with people. We have a satellite space at the drop-in center here in Auburn, and where all of my staff from the entire community outreach team engage with people every Wednesday, and some of my staff even on Saturdays at the drop-in center. So connections are being made there, a lot of referrals and recommendations to come into the SSP, because my staff knows that we're going to serve them from a bunch of different angles and be able to provide support that obviously our selfish goal is to get everyone into recovery, and these are means and ways in which sometimes you begin that process. Serving about 500 people probably in the last 3 months, that's a big number, and that's a lot of people that are listening to my staff, that are coming in, that are being supported, it's a non-judgmental kind of arena where they are talking about their struggles, not just about drug use, obviously. They're talking about a variety of different things, and they're getting that support, and they're also gaining wisdom about these kinds of things, what's available to them, but also what resources, connections. Referrals are made nearly every client, nearly every person that's coming in, and nearly every day. There are referrals of some degree that are happening. I wanted to, I'm sure we're short on time and I could talk about this all day, but it's important to talk about a couple things. When we talked earlier about participating in cleanup, we did do a city cleanup in Lewiston a few months back. And that was, we had a lot of folks from a lot of different varieties of people in community. There were business people, there were families, there were professionals, and there were people in recovery that were participating as part of that city cleanup. We have a Lewiston and an Auburn community cleanup coming up on December 5th. So that's something I would encourage you all to come out and join us. And that's a way in which, again, like Ann from CDC spoke earlier, it's something that some SSPs like to participate and do and provide for the community to do our part to make it safe for everyone. The final thing I wanted to leave you with is a little bit of a story, because I think that's important sometimes to really kind of hear real life example of someone that has benefited from using the SSP. And actually, it was an email that I literally just got last week from an individual that we've been serving for about 3 months, and a male in his early 30s, and been a substance user for a couple of years. Been in and out. He's tried in and out of treatment several times on his own, and then someone told him about an SSP, and because a friend of his had recommended that he come there because there were recovery coaches and someone could help him if he was interested in going to treatment again. So he came in just a handful of times, and at one visit, he decided to openly say, I've tried detox multiple times, and I feel like I fail every time because each time I come out, I'm not able to stay in sobriety forever. I have to keep going back. And so my staff began to work with him about really, you know, what did he want to do? And he said, I really want to try detox again. And so they talked about what would be a successful plan. And they spent a considerable amount of time with this individual and formulated a plan, even arranged for transportation, you know, where he could stay that evening because the bed was going to be in the morning. This was just about before we closed on a Tuesday evening. And, but by Wednesday morning, he was headed off to detox with a supportive person, a coach to kind of continue to encourage him to not back out of his decision. And then he had a coach waiting for him on the other end at detox. We made those arrangements, made those connections. That's the important part of a lot of this work, is you do a lot of that work before the crisis happens. It's important, you know, to formulate that relationship. And he trusted my staff that they had his best interests at heart. So flash forward is he did go to detox, and he stayed sober about 2 weeks. And then he came back to us and said, I stayed sober for 2 weeks, but I'm struggling again. And I relapsed again last night. You know, you could look at this story a bunch of different ways. I look at it as success in this fact that he felt safe enough and brave enough, and he felt supported enough to come back to our SSP and say, I need help again. So he did. And I'm sure it was, you know, quite a struggle for him to admit out loud that he once again, in his definition, had failed. So my staff went to town again with whatever he, you know, wished that would be helpful to him, put together the plan. This time it was actually, he was earlier in the day, so we actually were able to get this person into treatment by the end of the day. So just a few hours. It took a lot of coordination, a lot of people helping out and supporting. And I received an email last week that he continued on from detox. He had then decided right from detox that it was not safe for him to return to the streets. And so he talked with his counselor there, and they arranged for him to go into a 45-day program, stayed there, residential, and now he's in sober living program somewhere in the state. That's a beautiful success story, and he felt as though it was really necessary to email me, and this is the words that he said. I'll leave you with this. He said, hello, Ernestine. I wanted to just let you know that I graduated the 60-day program, and I'm now moving on to sober living. I have now put together about 72 days total, and I am feeling the best I have in a very long time. I'm also asked purposely, even though I'm in sober living and I don't need to really do any more formalized treatment, I've asked to go into an IOP, an intensive outpatient program, to fill up my days and keep me busy, and go on for, to continue to join my NA meetings each week. I hope you realize that you and your coworkers saved my life that day, and I truly appreciate it, especially since I had already attempted detox and sober living and treatment programs for so long, and I only made it a week or two each time. You all recognize that I didn't have time to wait on some waiting list for a facility or a program, and scoured the earth for me to be able to get into a program promptly, and that literally saved my life. When I am in the area next, I plan on stopping by and thanking you in person, because what you did was literally change my life and save my life. And I want to thank you from all in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? I just want one follow-up question. When Mr. Smith was here 2 weeks ago, there was the discussion of the 1-to-1 plus program, that it isn't simply somebody just walks in the door, comes up to the window or the counter or whatever, and give them a box of 100 syringes. So can you talk a little bit about the conversation that goes on to try to figure out what the appropriate level of provision of syringes is, depending upon the client?
Yes. We followed the CDC guidelines for operating our SSP. I will say within those guidelines, it allows us the ability to sort of customize what works for an individual when they come in. If they come in with no syringes, then every single person, we're always having a conversation with them about what their use is like. So if they're brand new to us, they spend a little bit of extra time there because we want to get to know them. We want to understand what their needs are. We want to understand what their struggles are, and we want to know how best to support them. So there's a questionnaire, of course, that we fill out with them that does elicit a lot of this information. But in that conversation, we understand from them reporting about what their use is like. So if they say that they're using they know that there's fentanyl in the drug supply that they are using, then we're also understanding that the withdrawal from that and the shelf life is very short. So they, in theory, could be using 8 to 10 times a day, if not more. The guidelines are that they should have a clean syringe for each time that they are using and not reuse, because obviously it increases their risks of infection and increases their risk, of damage, et cetera. And so with that conversation, then we're sort of customizing it to what makes sense for them, but also keeping in mind that we want them to come back as quick as possible. So we'd like for them to come back within a couple of days if we can. I would say that the average for a person that's coming in, then we're giving them a couple of sleeves, which is about 20 syringes, with the idea, and we have the flexibility, obviously, through the guidelines to give them up to 100. That is not common for our practice that we're doing that, particularly because we are also trying to connect with them. And so, our methods have worked in the sense of that the more often that people are engaging with SSPs, particularly with ours, we have been finding that people are more likely, obviously, to engage in recovery coaching that we're offering, as well as all of these other services, and it's increasing, obviously, their chances of wellness, and we're able to make appropriate referrals. So the luxury that we have is that we're able to kind of customize what works for them.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? No, thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate all of you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
For the council, at the next meeting, I think we'll finish up some additional information, background information, and then start a conversation about the potential policy areas that the council might think should be included in an ordinance. With that, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is an update on the public safety facility. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I think we will start the presentation, and then if need be, we'll ask to roll it into presentations under the council meeting, depending on, I want to make sure we don't rush questions that you have and be able to answer everything for you. So I know you're becoming familiar with our team here. This is a follow-up from the last presentation to you, council. You all should have received the floor plans, the layout, and also we needed to redesign the police asset training space, as well as the one of the fire training facilities as well. So the team will walk through that for you, and then afterwards, I'll talk about next steps. I'll give you a cost breakdown and then a draft order that we'll consider at the next meeting. So Dan, I'll ask you to start, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Council, for having us here tonight. So we heard comments last meeting, and we've taken those comments and made some alterations to the plans, as well as some clarification, as you can see in the drawings that we provided, so that everyone can come up to speed on the current 50% design development set that we have and the pricing associated with that. Megan is here from Woodard & Curran, and Andy is from our architects, and they will walk you through those drawings. And sorry, JP down at the end with our general contractor for the project. So I'll drive here.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, City Council, for having us here again. I'm going to start by just kind of reacquainting you all with the proposed site plan, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleague here, Andy, to walk through some of the details related to the proposed buildings. As you can see on your screen, and I know you guys have the plans in front of you, this is the proposed site plan for the new combined public safety facility at 550 Minot Ave. To help orient, Minot Ave is at the top of the page, and then you have the building and the proposed improvements kind of working their way down, so on the south side of Minot Ave. The large orange box is the proposed public safety building. It's a 2-story building with a single-story apparatus bay. The apparatus bay is that kind of cutout with the dashed lines on the left side.
Doesn't work.
Right there. For context, if you've been out and seen the site, the proposed apparatus bay is proposed to be located to align with the current apparatus bay, more or less, so similar in and out of vehicles. And then the new facility, the improvements will work to the east side of what you see when you currently look out there. So to give you a little point of perspective, on that east side is where that residence is that the city acquired a few years ago. So that's where the large section of the building will be constructed. On either side of the apparatus bay or the building, we have 2 driveways that come in. That driveway on the east side goes to some public accessible parking spaces. There's about 18 parking spaces there that will be for the public as a way to come into the public safety building. And then both those driveways will come down to secured gates that will go to the back of the building where there'll be secured parking spaces. Right now, there's about 116 parking spaces in the back, of which 48 are proposed to be covered. That is for the fleet vehicles that need to be readily accessible at any time to be able to move. And then the rest of the parking spaces are for staff changes, as well as training facilities if we have outside visitors coming in to do regionalized training. On the left side or the east side, you see the blue box. That is the police asset building that the city manager talked to earlier. And again, this is storage of rolling assets for the police department, the motorcycles, variable message boards, the command center vehicle, and things like that. And then finally, the kind of long skinny road on the left side there that goes down to that circle is what is the training area in the back. We are crossing an existing stream. That's what that pretty blue line is in the middle, that we're working with regulatory agencies to make sure we protect it to the greatest extent practical. But then we'll come down in the back and we'll have what is the fire training center to replace the current burn building that the fire department has on site and uses on a daily basis. The box in the middle, the green box, is the burn building. It's a modular box that will be come and dropped on site. And the small green box on the bottom is that burn building training or fire training area. I think Chief Chase described it well last time when we were here as it's the dirty building. It's where they go in after the training and they can regroup, debrief, and talk about what next steps need to happen. So that is your overview of the site. Not much has changed with that respect, but I want to hand it over to my colleague Andy Highland from Port City Architects to kind of walk you through the buildings.
You'll have to hold the button down at that seat.
I'll hold it while I talk, okay? Thank you. So we haven't met formally. I'm Andy Highland I'm Senior Principal at Port City Architecture in Portland. Just a quick thing about us. This is, we're really public safety specialists. We've probably done about 40 projects throughout the state of police and fire. Most recently, Augusta Police Station. We're just working with Portland now on their police station, many fire stations as well. Before I get into the floor plan, I just kind of want to give you a brief, very brief explanation of how we got to where we got there. And that starts when we do a project, we start with programming. So we sit down with the staff on both the fire and police station, and we identify just on a matrix, on a regular matrix, how many rooms that you need. In this case, there are about 300 line items. So we talk about every single room, what size it is, what's the need, what does it need to be next to, et cetera. And we come up with that, number, square foot number. We vet that with what other cities have done and what we've seen and make sure that you're in line and that nothing seems out of sorts. And we did that. And I think the numbers at that point were about 63,000 square feet, 58 plus 6 in outbuildings. So second, and then after we get that under our belt, we really kind of go into the site constraints. We talk to our structural engineers, geotech engineers, work with Megan here, and we really see, well, how's this going to work on the site? What's the best construction method for the city that's going to, on this particular site, that's going to give you the best value? We determined steel construction. Working with our structural engineer, we determined that a 30 by 30 grid is probably the most economical. It gives you the biggest span for the least dollars in the concrete. We worked with Megan on the layout, like as she was explaining, how can we get out to the road quickest? Where should the apparatus bay goes? And that's really kind of when we get to this point here. So in the building, what we want to make sure we have a secure police section, a secure fire section, and a public section, which is kind of their shared spaces in the middle. So the fire went on the left because that's where the apparatus bays went out. The middle, where you see fitness, and the center section there is really kind of public. It's training, fitness, etc. The right is the police department. Some of the other considerations that we have are like safety. We want safety for the officers, safety for the staff. For the fire department, it's more making sure that toxins that might be out on the equipment stay out in the apparatus bay, that they don't get sucked into the building, that they have an area that they can, that's the decontamination area, that they can go in, clean off after an incident, whether it be an EMS incident with biohazards and blood, or whether it be a PVC residue in a fire, things like that, and making sure that we have a secure police area and that they're protected from physical harm. So that's kind of how we got in there. I'll just kind of walk through on the front. So we try to really kind of keep, we call it front of house, back of house. So the public's obviously on the front. We try to keep those areas separated from the working part, or people that might be coming into the station that didn't want to, and try to keep them in the front and the back and separated as much as possible. So records is always like right up near the front area. That's for people coming in, maybe needing court records. That's people that are usually there 9 to 5 to be able to greet and kind of see people coming into the lobby. As you turn around the corner, support services is parking. I think it's got the animal control officer, cadet services, different functions that are kind of ancillary to the police, and also the storage in the middle there. Locker areas for the patrol room, lockers and showers. The patrol area itself on the rear. So the staff parking's on the rear. They'd come in that rear door. This is where, if you've watched police shows, this is where they have patrol meetings, maybe a meeting before a shift change. And in the green is the sally port, where you might bring somebody in, and interview rooms, a booking area, etc. We like to keep the patrol room close to that if we can, to make sure that somebody got unruly, that there's other officers nearby. In the center, fitness identified, and kind of entry rooms in there. A lot of people say, is fitness really an important piece? It really is. It's a really stressful job, both mentally and physically. And, I've had people ask me, why can't they just get a, gym membership? Well, it's because they can't leave the building. If they're on, especially firefighters, if they're on shift, they can't just run down to the nearest fitness center. They won't be there for the call. So it's an important piece, and important to be in this building. On the bottom, we don't see the apparatus bays are on the left. So on the bottom is the kind of living area. It's where staff will be on call and ready to go. There's a kitchen, living space in there. In the at the front area is offices, battalions, chiefs, kind of mid-management. And in the middle is decon, again, that room that you can go in off of a truck and really get kind of cleaned up and then throw your gear in the washers and so on. It's a very kind of specialized piece. It's also gear storage, those old boxes there. And really the rest of it's kind of storage, EMS storage, extra gear storage. There's storage for all sorts of different functions in the fire department. Second floor. So they're stacked on top of each other. Each area is secure. Starting with the police on the right is some community outreach areas. Again, that's accessible from the public, so if the public's coming up to use those, they're in a secure area. They're not traipsing through the police station. As we work our way around, criminal investigation is your detective areas. It's the detective bullpens, offices, breakout rooms, all those type of rooms for investigations. The center, evidence, which is really lacking in your current station. So we have evidence storage in there. There's a huge need for that right now with all the red flag laws and yellow flag laws. A lot of police departments are getting overwhelmed storing firearms that might be taken away temporarily from other folks. And in the bottom is really the administration, the chief, deputy chief, conference rooms. Their connection down to, they got a direct connection down to patrol, and then we move kind of over to the fire administration. So fire administration, same thing, chief, deputy chief, all his kind of senior command, and that's where you would go up to meet with them. The red area is all the bunk rooms, individual bunk rooms, well, they're by 4 per room. And bathrooms that are also accessory to that. And in the center is training. And training is another one of those things that's super important in both police and fire. You want to make sure that they're ready. There's a lot of training that goes on. And you want to make sure that they're ready for any kind of incident that might occur, especially these days. And there's a lot of crazy incidents that happen. So it may be, there's a couple breakout rooms there, a small kind of warming kitchen where you might, have lunch and just bring in food to warm up. And off of that in the front entrance, so also you might have a regional training here. So there's room to come in front and back for other departments that might be having a training with the Auburn City departments, and make sure you guys coordinate. You have good contact between the other areas and municipalities around you, and make sure they can come in without really interfering with the police or the fire department business. So that's really it in a nutshell in the main building. We didn't really go over the apparatus. Well, yeah, we did. So the apparatus base here. We go through all the different apparatus that they have, what the needs are. We've kind of honed this down as a company to 17 foot wide is like the minimum we can really go down to, make sure that if 2 apparatus are in there that the doors don't bang open, but it's really cut down to really the minimum in a 14 by 14 door. The areas on the left are just supportive of the apparatus base, and that's areas like workrooms. It'll be where your air SCBA is filled and your breathing apparatus is filled. And all sorts of support spaces as well. Okay. This is the new and reduced police kind of rolling storage, I guess we'll just call it now, and practical training area. So we reduced the practical training, and that's an important function as well. Just kind of a mat area and areas where they can learn to take people down, and make sure that they don't injure a suspect, and chokeholds, things like that you've heard of. So that's that area, and then the other space is for specialized equipment to really just kind of keep it out of the weather. So it's marginally heated, where you see the command vehicle, trailers, other pieces like that. But it's going to prolong the life of all the equipment that the city's purchased. Okay. And finally, pretty simple. is the fire training facility. And again, this really does need to be a separate facility. What we're doing for firefighter health and first responder health is to make sure that you get toxins on you when you're in a fire. And I tell people, you think of your house, it used to be wood. And I think most people's houses are PVC and vinyl siding and so on. So these, things can create some big toxins. So they want to come in right after, an incident on the training area in their turnout gear and really kind of have a meeting right then. So you don't want to bring that into the building and bring those contaminants in the building. So this is that area that they can come in, have a classroom, kind of debrief on what went right, what went wrong, and that's right down at the fire training facility. So another important piece on the building. Quickly, just what we're looking at elevations. Our main objective on building a municipal building is longevity. We don't want to come back to you in 10 years and say you got to paint this, you got to fix that. Once you do this, we want this building to be really as maintenance-free and durable as possible. We're looking at brick and maybe Petroc panels or panels that are don't need any paint or rain screen, if you would. And kind of came up, took a look at a lot of buildings in Auburn, and kind of came up with some ideas and the pier ideas, the punched openings. That gives you a lot of flexibility. So this was the look that we came up with, and that's really, I think, that brings you up to date in a nutshell. So we'll be here for questions. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody. Okay.
So Mayor, we may have a few more questions and follow-up, and the staff, the team rather, is certainly prepared, and we can go over costs as well, but I'm wondering if we want to break and then come back during presentation?
Yeah, so we'll adjourn the work session and reconvene at 7, and just for the staff, we have, once we reconvene, we'll have a couple items we need to take up, take less than 5 minutes, and then we'll be back and we'll continue on with the discussion. So we'll reconvene at 7 p.m.
Gotta leave my stuff.
The November 17, 2025 Auburn City Council meeting will be called to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could have the councilors introduce themselves, starting with Councilor Whiting.
Good evening, I'm Rick Whiting, lame duck, Ward 1 City Councilor.
Good evening, Tim Cowan, City Councilor for Ward 2.
Steve Milks, City Council, Ward 3.
Jeff Harmon, Mayor.
Good evening, Ben Weisner, City Councilor, Ward 4.
Leroy Walker, City Council, Ward 5.
Good evening, Adam Platt, City Councilor at Large.
Phil Kroll, City Manager.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. There's two items on the consent agenda. The first is confirming the appointment of Thomas Ellis as constable with firearm for the Auburn Police Department, and the second is appointing Ned Claxton to the ethics panel. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Weisner, seconded by Councilor Walker. Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, the motion is adopted. The next item is approval of the minutes of the November 3rd, 2025 regular City Council meeting. Are there any errors or corrections? Not seeing any, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilor
Second.
Walker, seconded by Councilor Cowan. The vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, the motion is adopted. We'll move on to communications, presentations, and recognition, and we will pick up where we left off at the workshop with the public safety facility update. Folks, if you want to come back up.
Sorry, I did tell.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get back to you here in just a second. So we're going to take a couple things out of order here. So the first item we're going to handle is the Auburn Public Works APW reaccreditation presentation. The APWA Regional Director, Rich Benevento, is here. Mr. Benevento, if you can come up to the podium, that would be great.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the introduction. On behalf of the American Public Works Association and the entire Public Works community, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight at your council meeting and to recognize your Public Works Department. It is also an opportunity through events like this that we can raise awareness about the value and importance of public works in our communities and in our quality of life. So thank you. As the chair mentioned, my name is Rich Benevento. I am a member of the National Board of Directors of the American Public Works Association. I represent Region 1. Region 1 includes the Maine chapter, the New England chapter, and in Canada, Labrador, and Newfoundland, and also the Atlantic Provinces chapter, which is Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Just a little bit about APWA. If you don't know about APWA, it's the largest and oldest organization of its kind in the world, with a membership of over 31,000 public works professionals, consisting of 62 chapters, 96 branches throughout North America, representing government agencies, consultants, suppliers, and contractors. A little bit about the accreditation program. It started actually over 2 decades ago and continues to grow each year in the number of accredited agencies. The process starts with a public works agency applying to APWA for accreditation. The Public Works Agency proceeds to conduct a self-assessment, and if you talk to Liz and Scott, you'll find out that a lot of benefits come out of that self-assessment. And it's really comparing policies, procedures, and practices and so on that they use versus the documents that describe the Public Works Management Practices in the Public Works Management Practices Manual. And the outcome of this self-assessment is a knowledge where the agency can improve by updating and adding policies and procedures to be consistent with the manual. And then the agency would then set up an evaluation with APWA. Evaluators are part of a pool of public works professionals from around the country that have been trained and volunteer to review agencies' accreditation. The evaluators make a recommendation to the Accreditation Council, who then approves the accreditation. So it's a big deal. Accredited agencies put a tremendous amount of time and work into the process to achieve accreditation, as your Public Works Department has done. The process itself provides many benefits, like fostering a culture of continuous improvement, breaking down of silos between other town departments and themselves, capturing of institutional knowledge, improved succession planning and employee development, document control, and even a decrease in insurance premiums due to risk assessment and things of that nature. Accredited since 2017, Auburn Department of Public Works is no stranger to this accreditation process. This is the third accreditation for the Auburn Public Works Department. So one might say, why go through all of this? What's the purpose? Accreditation is the mark of professionalism indicating a public works agency has made a commitment to continuous improvement in the delivery of public works services and operations and services in the community that it serves. Accreditation recognizes an agency's policies, procedures, and practices, which have been evaluated by experienced public works professionals who then compare them against recognized management practices internationally and that are appropriate for that specific agency. Management practices that benefit the agency and community by increasing efficiency, improved processes, succession planning, professional recognition, and continuous improvement, and of course, enhancing the services it provides to its customers. Those customers, the people who live, work, and enjoy the quality of life right here in Auburn. Accredited public works agencies are a very, very elite group. To put it in perspective, although there are 19,400 cities and towns in the United States and another 3,700 in Canada, there are only 255 accredited public works agencies. In New England, there are only 6, 3 in Massachusetts, 1 in Connecticut, 1 in New Hampshire, and 1 right here in Auburn, Maine. During the October site visit in Auburn, a team of accredited evaluators consisting of experienced public works professionals from Florida and Ohio reviewed 124 practices to confirm the Auburn Department of Public Works compliance with internationally recognized management practices applicable to the agency's operations and responsibilities. Following the evaluation team's recommendation, I'm proud to report that the Auburn Department of Public Works received 100% full compliance with all applicable practices. Now, there are a lot of public works agencies that get accredited. Not many get 100% full compliance. So that is a big accomplishment for sure. And it's no wonder the City of Auburn's Department of Public Works stands out for its exceptional commitment to serving the community, managing not only streets, snow removal, and city facilities, but also all of Auburn's school buildings, parks, and cemeteries. This wide range of responsibilities showcases the department's versatility and deep sense of civic pride, from maintaining the city's infrastructure and public spaces to caring for its schools and historic grounds. Auburn's Public Works plays a vital role in the daily life of its residents. Staffed by skilled professionals who take great pride in their work, the department keeps essential services running smoothly, year-round, often behind the scenes in challenging conditions. Their dedication ensures that Auburn remains a safe, welcoming, and well-maintained city, preserving its historic character with supporting future growth in every season. In every season, their work reflects Auburn's long-standing tradition of hard work, community service, and spirit, and care for the places that bring people together. The department's commitment was evident during the in-person evaluation. In fact, the evaluation team was impressed with the entire DPW operation. Some of the details they noted were that Auburn's Department of Public Works maintains all city and school district-owned facilities, including cemeteries, which they acknowledge as a huge, huge undertaking. They also love seeing the community cleanup trailer, which is outfitted with everything a community group would need when they volunteer to maintain a public green space. The lead evaluator for the Auburn reaccreditation evaluation shared this quote: "While 24 hours is really enough time to gain full understanding of any organization, this visit proved to be an exception. It was immediately clear that Director Scott Holland and his team are a close-knit group who care deeply about the reaccreditation process and what it means to their department. Even though this is their third cycle, challenges like staff turnover or uncertainty about documentation often shows up in these reviews. That was not the case here. Auburn's team was thoroughly prepared, professional, and made the entire visit exceptionally smooth and were very welcoming. I also want to give special credit to Liz Allen for her tremendous hard work. She is truly a gift to the department. Well done to everybody involved. Be proud of this accomplishment." And that came from Ken Ahube. He's the business service manager for Charlotte County, Florida Public Works, and a great tribute to this process. Given the success of your Public Works Department under the leadership of Scott Holland, on October 28th, 2025, the APWA Accreditation Council awarded full accreditation status to the City of Auburn Department of Public Works. And on behalf, hey, Scott, can you come up? Why don't you come up with Liz, too? And everybody else from the DPW. So I have a couple of last-minute things here. First and foremost, right, on behalf of the American Public Works Association, it is my pleasure to present the accreditation plaque to you, Director Scott Holland, in recognition of this achievement. Congratulations to the entire Public Works Department, and of course, nice work, Liz, as the accreditation manager. Well done. We hope that you will continue to proudly display the Accreditation Public Works Agency symbol on the DPW website. This is a tremendous accomplishment for your Department of Public Works in the City of Auburn, and it's even extra special because Auburn continues to not share the distinction, but hold the distinction of being the only public works accredited agency in Maine, and will hopefully be setting the bar for others to follow. So that is a great, great tribute. Here is your plaque. Congratulations. Just one last thing, Scott, before you go. One of the other things I would like to present with you, we know the value and importance of first responders in public works, in police and fire. Public works are also considered first responders, and I have a Public Works first responder pin. I hope that you will wear this proudly as a Public Works first responder. First in, last out, Public Works, right? Thank you all again very much for allowing me to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Benevento. Congratulations to Public Works. It's a great department, works very hard. We're really proud of them for following all the best practices and maximizing the service that they can provide to the residents in Auburn. So thank you very much. We'll now move on and continue the discussion regarding the public safety building. So if the presenters want to come forward again.
So Mayor and Council, as they are settling in, couple things. One, we wanted to make sure we provide you more detail in the floor plan. That's something that we didn't go over in detail at the last meeting. So that's why you have the floor plan as well as those areas of responsibility within the agency for the services they'll be providing. We also took the feedback regarding the training, the fire training facility and the police rolling asset and practical training area those two areas, the square footage was reduced in those two buildings. Maybe you'll remember JP from Allied Cook was with us at the last meeting. JP will talk about some of the discussion was regarding if you were to shrink the square footage, where's the tipping point that you could actually shrink this where you would actually see value. I think before we asked JP to do this, one thing that was discussed, and I'll highlight again, is that the programming that was done, really because of the length of process that we've been involved in this, there was programming that was initially done by a separate contract provider. And then years ago, when we first started this process, and then the project had hit a pause, and then when this was reinstated, it was done again. And what we've identified is that the square footage for both of those programming, that process, pretty much in alignment. There wasn't a big variance between those two. And because it demonstrated that what was being identified was what's currently being provided. The thing to keep in mind is that when we talk about this one facility, we currently, we're broken up currently in probably about 6 different spaces right now. So think of the building at 550 Minot Avenue, the current central station. That station has 2 Connex boxes on the back of that facility that has a lot of storage of equipment and supplies to be available. The PD is on the basement floor of this building. They're also located on the 3rd floor of this building. We have records that are stored in, if you look at on this end of the building, there are different records building offices that we took over for a lot of the record space. And then we also, when the PD moved in here, we also took over the garage space. So the overhead door that you see in the parking garage, that is where there's currently rolling stock for the PD in that front, and the back is where the evidence room is. And so, because there was not enough space here. So we're if you were to look at all the square footage that we currently have, we're really piecing all of that together and putting it into one usable and functional space here in this facility. So JP, just if you can, just talk about, we talked about how this is designed on 30-foot sections and just what that impact would be. That would be helpful. And what the reduction was on those other 2 facilities.
Sure, yeah, I can start with the other 2 facilities. Excuse me. Originally at the 50% design, we were at roughly 1,350 square feet for the original fire training. We're now reduced down by a couple hundred square feet to 1,120. And saw, based on simplification of the building and the reduction, saw about $125,000 in savings there, which I'm sure will be captured in your budgeting. Practical training and rolling assets, more major of a swing there. We were originally in that facility at just over 6,500 square feet. We're now down to just under 4,000 square feet, so we shaved off about 2,600 square feet overall, and we're just about $1.23 million in savings on that facility as well. Any questions before I move on from those 2 buildings specifically, or do you want me to just keep rolling through that?
Go ahead.
Sure. So the tipping point for square footage reduction was really, I think, the main goal of what we evaluated over the past couple weeks. Whenever we break down any budget exercise we do, we break it down to cost per square foot. Right now, this facility as a whole, this is everything that you saw on the screen, from the site to the main public safety building to the outbuildings. We're at about, sorry, I had it right here, $596 a square foot. So as we look at those metrics, it's easy to look at the large building and say, hey, if I take out a certain amount of square footage, I should be getting $596 a square foot in reduction. The issue that we have is this is a specialty type of building, and built into all those costs are the site costs and all the other components of the site and components of the building that we absolutely need. At a very least, we can never really actually achieve getting a $596 a square foot savings, because at the end of the day, we still need elevators, we still need stairwells, we still need a roof, we still need an electrical service, water, IT, all those things that come with a specialty building itself. So just because I take a certain section out of the building doesn't mean I'm gonna reduce my elevator cost, because I still have 2 stories, I still have to service that, and that cost doesn't change. So when we look at it broadly, it turns into, the tipping point question. What sees actual significant savings? So when we look at the structure itself on the 30 by 30 grid, if we simply take 10 feet out of the 30 by 30 grid in one direction, we don't see much of a savings, because we still have for lack of a better term, we still have a beam that we need to put in place there. So instead of call it 30-foot beam, we're now putting a 20-foot beam. So we're not seeing a dollar for dollar savings there. We're seeing quite a reduced savings. And this design, as it stands right now, is further somewhat complicated by the HVAC and electrical requirements of the building. They don't mimic or follow the structure. They're more efficient as you get into different zones. So this building specifically, mechanical-wise, is broken up into 3 areas. You have the police, you have the fire, and then you have that center core where the fitness and training room and all that was. So the systems themselves are designed to service those areas. So just because I'm taking away 2 feet of a structural bay, or 10 feet, what have you, I still have the same amount of mechanical equipment that I'm putting into that same area. So I'm not seeing any real savings at all. So as we evaluate down through that building to see any type of significant savings, we're looking at a 33% reduction at a top end based on mechanical. So as we relate that to the square footage of the larger building, we didn't evaluate the apparatus bay at all, because we know that that's been vetted out from a size perspective. We left the square footage of the outbuildings out of our calculations, and we left the Sally Port out as well. So at its surface right now, we would have to eliminate 33% of that larger building, which equates to either eliminating police, or eliminating fire, or eliminating that center core of the building, to see anywhere from probably, I think it was, around 15% in overall savings per cost per square foot. So you're eliminating 33% of your building, but only gaining 15% of cost reduction. And on top of all that, we didn't evaluate anything as it impacted codes, as it impacted programming. It was just strictly looking at the square footage itself based on the mechanical systems and structure as it relates to architectural components like the exterior of the building and everything that goes along with that, roof, siding, windows, what have you.
Great, thanks, JP. Dan, can you put the design back up? One thing that, council, you might have questions regarding the layout of the space. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to do that. We can go back through these however you would like. If you need more description of the space that's outlined, the staff is prepared, because I did receive some inquiries regarding, bathrooms in the facility, access, the storage areas, evidence room. So the team will be ready to answer those questions that you might have, and we'll do our best to be able to do that, and then I'll jump into the cost. So, any questions regarding what we've shown so far?
Council Platt.
Thank you. I have a question. It could just be because I'm naive, but some detail on the bunk rooms. I was curious, are those shared by both fire and police, or is it just fire that bunks up at night?
So the bunk
and just
rooms-
as a quick
yeah,
follow-up,
yeah.
I also was just curious, as of the number, I see, is it 8 rooms of 4 beds, and how does that translate to the average number of people who overnight are looking for, are we building to 4X capacity now for the future, or is that what we need today?
Yeah. I'll let the chief answer about the bunk rooms, because that is strictly the fire side of the building. But I do want to note, and we can go to it on the second floor design. There are, I'm sorry, it must be on the first floor design. For PD side, there are 2 bunk rooms that are in that space. And we can talk about that. Basically, the chief can come up and sit next to the fire chief here. We can kind of talk about why those 2 rooms are needed and what's that,
Yeah, they're in the
what do we
top,
use that for?
in the white in the top right-hand corner. Those, you can see a bed.
Just between the evidence and the criminal
Just above the
investigation.
evidence, yeah.
We did pick up another laser after last meeting, but it's still not showing well enough on the screen, but Chief, Fire Chief, you want to talk about the bunk rooms?
Yeah, sure. So our current staffing model at Central Station is we have an engine with 4 people assigned to it, a rescue with 2 people assigned to it, and the battalion chief, which is 1 person. Bring us a total of current deployment of 7 people at that station as we exist now. We often bring additional crews in for storm coverage, usually to the extent of 2 additional people. So the bunking configuration was really designed primarily around what our normal staffing level is. The other thing to keep in mind is that we hope to move the tower truck down here. We've long talked about how that's an important deployment. While that's not an imminent change in our operation, national standards would be that you would staff that type of truck with 5 people as opposed to the 4. And so it's built around that model of us bunking the current staffing that we have in the operation. With regard to, I believe you asked the number of beds or whatever, and that operationally is just something that our department has had and that our staff is really passionate about, especially with regard to hygiene and those types of things. And so they typically have their own bunk assigned to them rather than doing what would be called hot bunking. You basically hop out of a bunk at the end of your shift, somebody else hops back into it the next day. And so that's where that 8 bedrooms and those 4 beds for each come. We have 4 platoons. That's why there's a bed for each platoon in each bunk room.
Got it. So just so I'm clear, so the 32 beds are so that everyone can have their own space. They're clearly not going to all be used at once, but everyone's got their own space.
Yeah, that's right. One of the things in the design, and one of the things that's been hugely important to us in the building design is that, something I've stand firm on is being accommodating for a diverse workforce. So our goal is that, in a bathroom or when you're sleeping at night, you're in that room alone, right? There's nobody else sharing that space with you. So again, because we have 4 platoons, basically if you think of it that each riding assignment, the officer of Engine 3, there'll be a room for the officer of Engine 3. One person will be in there at a time. The next shift, he leaves, somebody else comes in and has their independent. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Other questions from the council?
I think we just had a follow-up on the bunk
And on
space.
the PD side, we have 2 bunk rooms because we have officers that currently work night shift, but they may be needed for court like 10 a.m. So we need a place for them to be able to get some rest. Right now, they're sleeping in their vehicles out in the parking garage. Or they're coming in, they're working a detail, and they've got like a 3 or 4 hour period before they have to report for the regular shift. So we need to give them a space to be able to get some rest before coming on to the full duty shift.
Yeah, the challenges that we've had with the workforce is that our workforce is traveling a much further distance than in the past. And so it would be impractical for them to drive home for that 2 hours waiting for court to start. And so it's beneficial, especially if they might be coming in for an afternoon court and then they have to work later. They can spend that couple hours, they have a rack where they can go into and then be able to go on to their shift. Especially if they might be working overtime and staying up all night.
Council Walker.
Thank you. My question is on the police asset building. And my thoughts were that we own, or at least we own at this point, out at Kitty Hawk, that building that was allowed to purchase. Why couldn't this whole command storage vehicle as well as your trailers and that be thought about or looked at out there? this looks like a pretty close to a 4,000 square foot building, which has got to be somewhere between $3 and $5 million. This, and what we own out there, I would think we could make that space at a whole lot less money than that.
Yeah, it's about access to the facility. It's about, whenever you have a piece of equipment that's out of sight, it's out of mind. And you need to make sure that the equipment on that facility is being, that equipment, rather that's in that apparatus, is being well maintained. The space, actually, when Public Works moves into Kitty Hawk, there's not enough space there for that apparatus. We talked with the fire chief about, is there a potential of being able to put that command vehicle on the fire side of the apparatus? And again, it makes it very tight. He talked about when they do drag their hoses out for drying, that becomes a challenge because that's that workspace in the apparatus bay that they would need. And then it's centrally located for an emergency that command vehicle needs to roll out for, because you're taking somebody from your staff, they're rolling out to that vehicle to then bring it to the site. But we did look at Kitty Hawk, and we looked, we currently have it up at Gracelawn. But I think it becomes more of that, when it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And if you're not training on it regularly, you're gonna, it's important for them to train on that and having it space. But Chief, so you both use it, but I don't know if there's anything more you want to add.
Yeah, it's important for us to have that close to us to be able to conduct regular training on that, because where it's a specialty piece of equipment, if you don't train on it regularly, you lose finesse with it, and you're struggling to get it set up on a scene. So we've got our people here that can roll out with that and get it out and running in a short amount of time.
JP, you wanna?
Yeah, from a cost perspective, we're at about 3,900, just over 3,900 square feet, and we're at $982,807 based on the current design, so under $1 million for that.
Is that building insulated the same way as, when you
Yeah,
look at
it's-
cost per square foot, obviously, it
Yes.
sounds like that's way cheaper than the average cost per square foot across the project.
Yeah, where you're seeing the efficiency is a large space that's, moderately tempered, but yeah, it does meet all current codes at that point, so.
Council Count?
Just to add to that, the 43-foot by 30-foot training room, I can't imagine where that would go into the other part of the main building. Anyways, if we were to say, yes, we really wanted you to move your stuff, had you thought about that at all, Chief, in terms of if it's anything in the main building had to be repurposed? Or?
Well,
Either.
certainly the intent of that training room out back, and as we described it before, is that's that dirty space, right? And its proximity to be able to do a live fire evolution, step back inside. Maybe there's another group going simultaneously in the burn structure, but between evolutions, you're debriefing, you're talking about what's gone, you're getting a safety brief for the next thing you do next. But it keeps those carcinogens isolated there. As I said before, what we currently do, our burn structure is 40 feet. We pull apparatus out and we let people go into the apparatus bay to do those things. We're 400 feet from the station in this instance. And so that makes it more challenging, and also having this space, when we do regional trainings, right, allows us to not have, a bunch of other people in our working space from other agencies and worry about security and those types of things.
Thanks, and I was thinking on police in terms of the piece. I appreciate the input though, because I was going to ask you about that anyways. But that, part of this extended building, this external building for police was that training room, right?
Correct, yeah, the training room plays an important piece to that, because if you look at that main training facility in the center of the main building, we're also going to be using that's coupled as a emergency operations center. So when we have a large event in the city, that's going to be used for the emergency operations center, where department heads from throughout the city are going to be coming out there to be able to help manage those type of operations. So when you have a practical training area, you've got mats, you've got a lot of equipment that you have to store, and to try to tuck that into a corner makes it difficult at best. And also, in that main training area, we're going to have the ability to host regional trainings like we used to, which is a benefit for us, because when you host a training, to that scale, you get free slots for that training. So it helps us it behooves us to be able to host those trainings, to be able to get more people trained at that training for a lower cost.
Thank you to both of you.
Other questions from the council? Mr. Manager?
Thanks. So, council, I think we've, demonstrated and certainly can answer more questions as we go along, but, I go back to the design that was presented to the public and the functions that were shared to the public when the referendum was voted on and the allocation of funds. So for those maybe watching, those in the audience that may not know, the voters did vote for this project. And this is pretty much as it was designed. The only thing that we've removed is the police firing range, and the only thing we've added is the fire training center because of a grant opportunity that became available. That added cost, we were able to get some of that paid for out of a grant, but the remaining of that project did come back into this project as a added cost that wasn't part of the original design, but we see the value of moving forward with it. And so when that was presented, Megan was here, she presented, she went through all of this, and we were at around $45,050,000, I think is what was presented. And we also knew that we had, in addition, we had $2.5 million in congressional earmark funds that were designated for the project. And we knew even then our numbers were at 50 at 2022, year of 2022. And we know we've seen a lot of increased costs, labor, materials, everything. And so the design team has really been working through this. And then, when we got to a point, I think before we brought Allied Cook in, before they were hired, some of these numbers were running upwards close to $50 million and of where we were at. So a lot of this has been reduced to get to where it is now. Dan, can you pull up in that drive that I provided? There'll be one in there for the cost. And if you can pass out to the council, Dennis. So one thing that was asked at the last meeting when I provided the cost was, can you just zoom in on that, Dan, so people can see it a little better? The original estimate, as I mentioned, December 2022, was that $45,050,000. Different times of this project, the estimates were upwards of over $50 million. And if you recall, again, before Allied Cook joined us, we were talking about a multi-year phase project here because we were going to build half this building, demo half the building that currently exists, and then build the remaining building and patch this together. It wasn't very efficient. We did state that we would probably see, well over $1 million in savings if we were to do this all in one project. Council saw that, purchased 67 Kitty Hawk. The estimates that we had for 67 Kitty Hawk are certainly higher than what we had originally anticipated, and a lot of that has to do with code. And we ran into several code issues there. And so you see on here, we have about $250,000 in added costs. And again, that number had changed based on, pieces that we were adding, pieces that we were subtracting, limiting the Bay Area space, because originally we had thought we'd be able to use more of that, but we were able to really trim that down. So we saw that increase in those costs. The removal of the firing range and the redesign of the fire training facility, JP shared those numbers with you. That comes in at that $1.3 million in savings. And then, our design team, They didn't provide this number. This is Dan and the rest of us looking at it saying, we have a high contingency number in here. We've got it duplicated in some ways. We feel really confident with what the team has done. So we are looking at reducing some of our contingency as well as what we believe initially we'll be able to do in value engineering. We think that through some HVAC and electrical areas, we'll be able to see some additional savings there. That's the 2 point, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. That's a 2.5 that you see. And then the 3 million, the 2.5 million was from the congressional earmark funds, and then the 500,000 was from the fire grant. So now we're looking at an adjusted total project cost of $42,589,884. That's currently where we're sitting. That's after adjustments from the last meeting. So this number isn't the same as what you saw last time because the design team made some more adjustments. There'll be more savings, we hope, as we go through and do some of the value engineering and the work that's done there. Dan, if you can pull up the separate second document. And so, Council, what we'll propose for the next meeting.
I'm guessing this isn't it.
What does it say? Report?
Wage class?
No, that's not it. We have a handout, so we'll give you the handout.
Okay.
This is just more language, and it would have been hard to see anyway, so it's probably good that we don't have it up on the screen. Basically, it's the order to move forward. If you remember back in March, Council, you passed an order that said the Council will adopt or approve the final design. We're at that point. We need your blessing to move forward. There's still work that the ad hoc committee will do. They've been providing us feedback, discussions. They ask about certain materials we're using, which prompts the team to go and look and provide information back to them. So that work will continue. As well as the final design was a cost associated with that. So what I'm recommending is that you would approve bonding the 43 up to 43 million. We're not going to bond that all out right away because there's still room here. There's still things that are going to be decided. So we'll do an initial drawdown. We did that originally, the $5,850,000. We will draw down a bigger component. The finance director's here. She can talk about the discussion she had with the bond council. There was an amount that made sense for us to draw down the next chunk because as that's a larger number, there's opportunities for greater savings, better interest, all those things. So Kelsey's been back and forth with the bond council on that. Currently, Kelsey has that authority in the referendum to go ahead and draw those numbers down as need be. So she's working through that with the bond council because we will tie that in when we do our CIP that you've already approved for the FY 26 budget. So she's working on that now. That'll happen. It won't be the full amount. She'll do another as we get a little more detailed. She will then go back and we'll probably do a different term on that. We discussed that today because the public safety term on the bond has been 20 years. What we'll do on that last piece, we're thinking that's going to be probably wrapped into a future CIP and only be a 10-year bond on that second piece. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So what we're looking for you to approve, and this is where we can have more discussion, is that the as presented, designs as presented, and then cost, right now, at least giving us the room to go to 43 million. Hopes again that we'll see less than that. As I show in here, we're at 42.5 now. We're hoping to bring that down further, but rather than coming back and asking for a change in the order, that's the amount that we're recommending. But we're happy to answer more questions as we get through this.
Questions by the council? Council Milks.
So just to make sure I'm following, it's 45 million was approved by the taxpayers.
That's correct.
Right. So One question I have on this estimate is on the contingency. And as I understand it, generally 5%, which is about what that is put aside for contingency.
So right now.
So when you're building it, when things over, you make a mistake here, something here, so you put a 5% contingency on to cover.
So right now, both the city and the contractor are carrying 5%. So essentially, we're carrying 10%. So the idea is that when we get to 100% design, the city will be confident enough. We're not going to, there's nothing on our end that we foresee changing. So we'll be reducing that to 2.5, and the contractor would actually probably reduce theirs to 2.5 as well. So we'd have a 5% project budget contingency, but only a 2.5 on the city side. So if they mess up, they eat their 2.5%. If we change our minds about something, we dive into our 2.5%.
Okay, thank you. So that's why you feel comfortable taking
Yes.
that 2.5 out. And-
Well, along with that 2.5, there's some value engineering in there as well. So
It's about 700,000 for the value engineering, and then the difference is the contingency.
Okay, thank you.
Council Whiting.
Are we on schedule? I'm looking at this project schedule, and it shows engine 2 done next November, and then the big facility the end of 2027.
If we can give them the green light to continue the work that they're doing, we're on schedule. Allied Cook is about ready to move their crew off from 121 Mill Street over to 67 Kitty Hawk. They've already started with engine 2. I think, again, the great work from the team when recognizing that the builder that we had contracted with engine 2 was just not being responsive, having many challenges. The team acted quickly. We were able to end that contract. Allied Cook was the second bidder on that. We were able to go with Allied Cook on that project. Hearing some of the stories from other folks that are currently we're still under that contract with that construction company that has now filed Chapter 11. Great work from the team. That allows us to stay on track, or else we would have been off, and this would have pushed us back quite a bit, and it would have cost us a great deal more.
Council Mel.
The earmark and the grant funding, are those fully approved and in-house?
Fully approved.
Fully approved, so
Yes.
that's not, we don't have to deal with potential, okay.
No, that's done. Yep.
Council Platt.
Thank you. I had two comments. One, aren't there TIF monies that go towards this project? And where are those captured in?
So yeah, they're not captured in there, only because that'll continue changing as we move forward. I shared a little bit at the last meeting. I probably should have brought that handout with me, but I think that we will provide a follow-up to, because really what that impacts is your debt service. As we're paying the debt, when we can pull from the TIF monies, because we've got about 9 projects that are contributing currently, we'll be able to pull those. I think Kelsey, correct me, but we're talking about $4 million with the 9 projects we have so far that will be available to be applied to debt. So of that 42 million, now, granted, there's interest on that, right? So, but that 4 million will be applied to that debt service.
Okay, thank you for that.
Currently.
Yep. Thank you for that reminder. My next, I guess, is just a comment to answer your question about if we support this. I think I do, where it's at. I appreciate the efforts made to take it down below 50 to get it to where it is. I also understand we've spent some of that money already, of that 50 or 45. I guess my only comment is if we come across other funding sources, I would ask that this is the design that we're approving. We don't get more funding and then go add on items to get back to our original design. I think it's important that when we lock this in, if there's more funding, that needs to go to the benefit of the taxpayers, not to increasing the footprint or the function of this building. I know there's things we cut out, and I know there's things that probably people want that they're not going to get, but it's a balancing act between building what we need and making sure that we're making responsible fiscal decisions. So I do support it where it stands right now, but I would say if we come across additional funding sources, I will certainly be outspoken about making sure that that additional funding goes to reduce this item.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions? Council Cowell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fully support Councilor Platz's thoughts on that. It seems to me, the sense I'm getting from you all is that this is a really solid design. It meets the needs that you have. I really appreciate the work you have all done, even before our last meeting, and then in response to that, to cut things back. Another piece that I just particularly excited about is that this design and has features in it that you've all spoken to that allow us to be that regional coordinator of trainings and facilitating things. And to your point, there can be some cost savings there, but I think that's my recollection from our last meeting, Chief Chase, is that that's something expected of us, and has been. And so I think it sounds like we can be getting back to that for the police. So I think that's really a great aspect we want to highlight here, is that this allows us to do the good work we are already doing to help coordinate, be a regional hub.
Other questions from the council? Council Wise.
Thank you. Just a quick comment for me is I like the work that's been done, but I think the biggest thing, and I hearing from the chiefs, both chiefs, is from what my comment is, what can we do to give you guys the best place that you guys can, that your team can provide the best training, get the skills that you guys need so that you can provide the best service for the citizens of this city, because we want you guys to be well-trained, educated, and focused on helping the citizens, which you already do that, but this gives you guys a great place to do that.
Absolutely, Council. Thank you for that support. But the facility as it's designed now maximizes all of what you just said for us.
Other questions by the council? I have a couple follow-up questions. I just want to clarify on the project cost summary. So a couple of questions about the 42.5. That includes or doesn't include the $3 million?
The 42.5, it will be the, that's 3 million is removed from the total cost already. So 42.5, that's why it's rounded to the 43 million for bonding, will be what's needed. We've already seen the $3 million savings.
Yeah, so so I understand that, but to get into the building, basically, it's the 42.5 plus the 3 million, and my question is, that full amount is turnkey to get into the building, right? We're not expecting we're gonna build the building and then, whenever, I don't have the schedule in front of me, one of the other counselors did, 24 months from now, we're gonna be sitting here saying, well, we need another $1 million for furniture or whatever. This is total turnkey cost.
That has all the furnishings, that has everything. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And that goes to the point about some of those less durable goods might be on a shorter bond period when that money's drawn down.
That's correct.
And then I think it's going to be important, I've received a number of questions from the public, so when we get a little further with the bond council and understand, we've already drawn down the 5.8, we know what the interest of that is, we know what the payments is going to be. When we get a better understanding here in the near term about when we're going to draw this down, what the interest rate range is, and then how we're going to apply TIF, I think it's going to be important to show a schedule of the debt service payments, because I don't think the public has a good understanding. Most of the people that have called me are going at this by looking at the language that was on the bond question, which is the maximal amount, which is quite far beyond what we're expecting to be paying in debt service. And the other thing I would mention is when we look at the TIF, the legislature in the last session amended the percentage. So that's something that we need to balance out here when we're looking at what the bond payments, the debt service is going to be based on the property tax increases and what we're expecting to get through TIF at a certain term with certain interest rates, so that we're clear to the public about that.
Yeah, we'll certainly have better information on the next drawdown of the bond at your next meeting, because we should have more information regarding that by then. It won't be a complete picture, but we'll certainly have more information as far as what our rate will be on that, and any other credits that might come as a result of the sale of that bond. So we should have more of that at your next meeting. And then you're right, Mayor, I think as we work and build the budget in the future, and we work in the debt service, that's when we need to then talk about when and what makes sense regarding drawing the TIFs. You've collected so far about 350,000, somewhere's in there, I think is where we're currently at. 380,000 is what you've collected in TIFs so far. That could be applied to TIFs. Just when does it make sense to draw down that amount, apply it? My guess is the best thing is, as we're building the budget, we're going through the budget, as we get, what's the debt service going to be for that year? Does it make sense for us to draw a piece of that in to help reduce that debt regarding the taxes that are coming in that fiscal year, so that we're applying those as need be. But yeah, all good points, Mayor. I think if you recall, when we did the referendum, we, through legal, we had to identify what's the total interest on this project, so that was part of the referendum. And so those were estimates that were determined. Legal said this is the parameters that you can go through based on where things were at the time. We're hoping, and we'll know more next week, or in 2 weeks rather, we're hoping that we're going to hear a much better interest rate than where we have been in the last few years. That's certainly the indication from bond counsel. We won't know until we sell it, sell the bond. And so, but we're anticipating we're going to see some better numbers than we've seen in the past.
Any final comments or questions by the council on this item? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time and the presentation this evening. We'll move on. Still under communications, presentations, and recognition. So we have a communication for the clerk relative to the official results from the November 4th municipal election. The full results can be found on the city website, but at a high level on the referendum questions, on question 1, in Auburn, no prevailed, and on question 2, yes prevailed. In the municipal elections, for mayor was Jeffrey Harmon, for Ward 1 councilor, Rachel Randall, Ward 2, Timothy Cowan, Ward 3, Matthew Duvall, Ward 4, Kelly Butler, Ward 5, Leroy Walker, and at large, Belinda Geary and Adam Platt. For the school committee, for Ward 1, Corinne Magugian, Ward 2, Misty Edgecombe, Ward 3, Pat Gaudier, Ward 4, Lydia Chapman, Ward 5, Dawn Horson, and at large, Pamela Albert and Nancy Polk. And again, for anyone that's interested, the clerk has posted the official results on
Mr.
the
Mayor,
website.
A correction, you said Pam Albert, Nancy Polk for at large. I believe it was Jay Rich, the second finisher.
What's the question?
You just mentioned school committee at large, Pam Albert and Nancy Polk as the
yeah, I'm
winners.
sorry. If I said that, it was an error. Yeah, it was Pam Albert and Olivia Rich. Yeah, my mistake. Thank you. Moving on, we have recognition of volunteer of the season from the Parks and Rec Department. Unfortunately, the individual is unable to be with us tonight, but I will read the message from Parks and Recreation, and they will present the award in person at another time. So the Auburn Recreation's Volunteer of the Season Award recognizes amazing individuals who dedicate their time and passion to our young athletes. This special honor is presented after each sports season to one outstanding volunteer coach, celebrating their invaluable contributions to our community and the positive impact they have on our kids. It's our pleasure to announce that this summer's Volunteer of the Season was Tammy Rodrigue. For nearly 10 years, Tammy has been a dedicated part of Auburn Rec's track and field program. Her commitment shines through summer after summer, even long after her own children have aged out of the program. Tammy's compassion, selflessness, and kindness have made her a trusted mentor and a welcoming presence for athletes of all ages. Whether it's coaching or supporting our staff, she consistently gives her best to ensure the program's success. We're grateful for Tammy's unwavering dedication and the positive impact she continues to make on our athletes and community. So congratulations to Tammy. We really appreciate the work that she has done. We'll move on to the first open session of the evening. If there's any member of the public that would like to address the council on an item that's not on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium and provide your name and address.
Quentin Chapman, 51 Eastman Lane. I left copies in case you all would like to review the notes. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the City Council tonight. I would like to start with a new ordinance on vacant and abandoned buildings. Since it passed, I've received calls from citizens who are anxious and now facing unexpected expenses. These are people who own their land, pay their property taxes faithfully, and do not fit the definition of problems in any of your work sessions that took place here. Yet they are being penalized. If a structure truly poses a public health or safety threat, as described in those work sessions, I understand the need for action. But many of the people cited do not fall into that category at all. To them, this feels less like reasonable regulation and more like tyranny. One extreme example, a family has a 27 by 40 foot storage building on their property, no water, no sewer. They've had it in their family for 85 years. It's never been an issue until now. When reached out to city staff, they were met with anything but cooperation. This building does not meet a single one of the problem criteria discussed in the work session here. Yet the owners are now forced to jump through hoops or face penalties. This is not enforcement of law, it's a punishment for owning private property. We see similar overreach in how the city handles tax-acquired properties. State law LD 2262, which some here have referred to as LD 101, is crystal clear. Municipalities must list tax-acquired property with a broker for full 12 months before taking any other action. There are no unless clauses or exemptions. That is exactly how the law is explained in this very room, most notably on February 18, 2025. Yet the city has bypassed that requirement, moved straight to restrictive RFP processes, and the land ultimately belongs to the people of Auburn, not to the city government, and should not be disposed of under restraining conditions that serve City Hall's vision rather than the public's. We keep hearing about housing crises, yet citizens who own buildable land and want to construct homes are being blocked. I fully support preserving sensible zoning, but when enforcement ignores common sense and basic decency, it becomes a barrier rather than a protection. If we truly want more housing, we cannot keep tying the hands of the very people who are willing and able to build them. One final point that has troubled me personally: when I served in the 132nd legislature during the first regular and special emergency session, I never once received an email, a call from Auburn's legislative delegation about any issues that hit residents the hardest. Property taxes, energy costs, drug use, needles on the streets. What I did hear about repeatedly was a proposed trail from Danville to Portland. I voted no on said trail. Not because I oppose trails, but because when families are struggling to pay taxes and heat their homes, recreational wants should not take priority over needs. And let's be honest, even if the money comes from a bond or some Fed grant, it still ultimately comes from the pockets of the people who are working. Meanwhile, the parks and trails we already have are too often occupied by individuals struggling with addiction and homelessness. Expanding those facilities right now only spreads the problem and further strains our police and city resources. We have recently saw a No Kings rally here in our community. The very idea of rallying against the very idea of tyrannical leadership. Some of you attended that event, yet right here in Auburn, many residents feel that same heavy-handed overreach from their own local government. Thank you for listening. I hope you take consideration of my statement. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public that'd like to address the council? Please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, the open session will be closed. We'll move on to new business. The first item is order 105-1103-2025, granting Keith Patrick Janess, doing business as KP's Place at 245 Center Street, an on-premise liquor license. This will be for public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Moved by Councilor Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Cowan. If any member of the public would like to address the council on this item, the public hearing is open. Please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, the public hearing is closed. Discussion by the council. Council Platt.
I just had one comment on detail. I don't think it affects the status of the application. I think it's still approvable. But in 22, it says, please provide the name and distance from the premises to the nearest school, school dormitory, place of worship. It lists Central Maine Community College, 1.6 miles away. But I think it's actually far closer to the Mustang Motel or whatever that, is that a dormitory?
Washburn School actually would be.
Yeah, I think it's still within the 300 feet state law. I don't think there's any issues in passing this, but just for the sake of making sure that we're passing an application that is correct, that might be something to look into. Doesn't affect my support of it, but.
Yeah, we'll have to look into because it's a leased space from the college, not owned by the college, but we can look into it. But I think Councilor Whiting's right. Washburn School would have been the closest.
Any other questions by the council? Council ready for the question? Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion is adopted. We'll move on to reports. I have a few items. I'll report on the homeless committee as Councilor Cowan wasn't able to be at the last meeting. So the major discussion was about the warming center / shelter. The sentiment of the committee was that they support a proposal that would provide shelter for at least 100 people throughout the winter. The people in the public will recall that the initial proposal was a warming center for 100 people through January 3rd, and then cutting down to 40 people for the shelter. In the interim period, Maine Housing clarified with Alter LA, which is the provider, their expectations, and they're currently running 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. for the month of November. Starting December 1st through April 30th, they'll run a 24-hour-a-day warming center for 100 people, and then in May 1st, they'll open the actual emergency shelter with 40 beds. And the next homeless committee meeting is November 18th at 9:30 a.m. at the Resource Center on Mill Street. Several of us, I saw Councilor Walker there, attended the LA Veterans Council Veterans Day event over in Lewiston at the Armory. And I was able to participate in Operation Crosscheck at the Norway Savings Bank Arena, which is a veterans hockey tournament. This was their second annual event. Really great event, and we're hoping that they'll be back next year. There was a presentation by Maine Immigrant Resource Center for elected officials last week at their facility in Lewiston. I was able to attend that. There was a ribbon cutting for a new business in town, Durago Technology. They're up at Willow Run. They've renovated one of the former medical offices there. Really great investment in the community. And the last thing I wanted to mention is the ongoing Maine Municipal Association subcommittee that's meeting with the Housing and Economic Development Committee Chair regarding municipal concerns about housing legislation. We had our third meeting this past week, and those will continue on up until the start of the session. And with that, we'll move on. Councillor Whiting.
Nothing to report. Just wish to offer congratulations to all the participants in the municipal election and to City Clerk and her staff for a well-run election.
Councillor Cowan.
I just want to pass on to Councillor Walker compliments on the upcoming Thanksgiving. I'm sure you're going to have details that you can provide tonight, but I've got a lot of questions and a lot of very positive feedback about that event. So I just wanted you to know that there are many that appreciate, including myself. So nothing else.
Thank you. Councillor Mills.
Nothing tonight.
Councillor Weiser.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Councillor Walker.
First of all, I'd just like to make a comment on the homeless people that are living on the riverbanks. We have one that's on the bridge on the end of Broad Street before you enter the other side. That person's only been there for just a short time, but in that short time, there is enough trash down there to fill up a pickup truck full. And nobody seems to really notice him or her, whatever it may be, that's staying down there, but that person needs to be removed from that area. He's or she has stolen trash barrels from the house that's next to that bridge, which is a nice brick one. And we also lost another person living on the Little Androscoggin Riverbank just this past weekend. And again, nobody announces that stuff, and I think it's a shame that these people are not at least announced, that people know these people living on the riverbanks or wherever they might try to lay their heads and may not wake up the next morning because of whatever problem they have. So I said something to one of the people that talked about taking care of these people with their needles and whatever else. I still say there needs to be a lot more work on taking care of these people to get them off the riverbanks when it comes November, December, January. And I don't have the answers for it, but we need to do a lot better work than what's being done. So going to what I want to really announce is Thanksgiving Day, we are going to do a Thanksgiving dinner free for people that can't give us, a donation. It's a complete Thanksgiving dinner. You'll enjoy it. You'll be with a lot of friends. And if they're not your friends yet, they will be after you come and eat turkey, because you're not going to feel like jogging away. So we have plenty of food, so please call the Recreation Department, get your name and phone number down, and show up Thanksgiving Day anytime after 10 a.m. in the morning. You'll be welcome to come in. We'll serve you right around noontime. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
And that's at the Senior Center at Pettingill Park?
Senior Center, Pettingill Park, Auburn.
Thank you. Council Platt.
Thank you. Two updates from the school committee. First is I've asked them to provide me just a monthly update of staffing, just so we can understand where they're at. In the last month, the school committee has hired 18 positions. 3 positions have resigned, and there's 23 vacant positions in the school department right now. Second update, the school department, the finance committee and the school board continue to address the excess fund balance that we heard about last month, so I want to keep giving you guys updates on that. At the last finance meeting, there were 2 votes taken to move excess fund balance into capital expenditure projects. One of them was for $34,000 to finish the brand new spray booth at the high school. This is used for like automotive painting, like body shop type stuff. It had been built out, but certain components of it were not funded in the bonding process intentionally, and as a result, they had this half-built thing that wasn't being used for classes. So they've put $34,000 towards that, asking LRTC to pay an additional $22,000 to help split the costs on this shared asset. So that was one thing. The second, there was another ask by the school department to spend $88,000 on a number of CapEx projects. In committee, in the finance committee, we pared that down from 88,000 to 35,000. And we authorized $35,000 to go towards these CapEx projects. Happy to go into details if anyone has questions. But the message is I want to let you guys know that the school department is diligently looking at the excess fund balance, putting it towards capital expenditure projects. I have requested of the school committee that we come up with a list of CapEx projects, as well as any emergency projects are actually voted on quarterly. I've asked them to do this. I feel strongly that excess fund balance should not be spent on new items, but should be spent on things that we knew we needed to spend money on. The same, very similar comment I just made about the public safety building. So I'm going to be pushing that, and I'll continue to give you guys updates on the fund balance.
Councilor Mills?
Can we take fund balance and put it into the funds that we're having that we've reserved already for ongoing maintenance of the buildings?
Yes, so they've, I think last month there was discussion about creating new funds within, new reserve funds within the school committee, or within the school department. I believe that process on the school side is actually a referendum process. I think the department votes on it, but then in an election, the people actually need to vote to create that capital reserve. So yeah, one of the discussions has been to create a facilities capital reserve, which again would simply reduce any CIP requests annually.
Yeah, for instance, the fields are in great shape right now, but those turf fields are going to wear out in 10 years. Is there ways that we can take that money and put it into that's where...
Definitely.
Because otherwise we're going to have to pay for that again.
Yeah, there are ways for that. I think it'll just be folks putting pressure on me in these meetings to put pressure on the school committee to prioritize funding in that direction. I think that's really smart. They've got a couple kind of capital reserve funds, including one for the new Performing Arts Center. Mm-hmm. So they are thinking about the long-term operational budgets of some of these new spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thanks, Mayor. City Council, just a few things. One, if you've been watching Center Street and the work that's being done there, the mayor came in and discussed that earlier with us. This is a Maine DOT project, but note that our engineering team is having conversations. We're working through. Obviously, this project is not going to be completed in this before. We're already beyond the time that it should have been completed. That's creating a lot of problems on Center Street, creating a lot of problems for businesses who have access into their parking lots. If you notice, there was some grinding that was done today. The plant for the asphalt's still open, but it's, placing that down at 37-degree temperature is not going to be the best case for this project. So we're having conversations with DOT. We'll continue to do that. We'll work as best as we can as far as maintenance that we may need to do to ensure that our plow trucks and then the businesses that have plow trucks who are, if we had snow this last storm, we would have been severely hampered. But these businesses are open for business. We want to make sure that it's a safe access for people. We'll continue to have that. The mayor came in today to make sure that we speak with the commissioner. We work through that, and we'll continue to do so and bring attention to this project and the lack of real oversight and supervision of this project. We've been very disappointed with it, and I think our public certainly has as well. And so we want to make sure the state is aware of that.
Question in regards to that. So with that, I know it's been handled by the DOT. Is there any liquidated damages that are contained within that possible contract, maybe that we can talk discussion with the DOT? And then, because we're probably going to have some increased expenses, I would assume, due to this not being completed. And is there any way that if there is some sort of liquidated damages from the state and the contractor, can we get reimbursed or something through that to cover our increased expenses from that?
Yeah, we'll certainly have that. Thank you. And we have had several citizens reach out regarding claim damage for their vehicles over this past summer. We're referring those to the state. That's through the, this claim process is there, but we'll certainly explore that further regarding this contract. Yeah, absolutely. So we are entering into the holiday season. Want to thank the great presentation for Public Works tonight and the work that they did on accreditation and the efforts that are done there. The team is also working, a lot of work being done prepping for snow season, getting equipment, everything transferred over and ready and operational, but also converting our downtown into a holiday opportunity for those who are visiting downtown, but also the events that we have coming up. So starting tomorrow evening, we have the fourth annual Hilton Holiday Hangout. So that will be at the Hilton Garden Inn. This is Auburn's way to help support small business, local makers and crafters. They'll set up their booths. That's an opportunity for the public to come. There's always a great turnout for those who come out and shop. Admission's free. There's live music. There's a lot of activities that are taking place during that event tomorrow evening. It starts at 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then the work underway for the Christmas parade, tree lighting, that's December 7th at 3:30 p.m. on that Sunday. We're still looking for parade entries. We encourage people to come out. It's an event for the whole family in the downtown. We'll have lots of festivities, Santa and the mayor, so they'll be doing their show down there for the event, and then obviously the lighting of the tree, and then that leads us, and really, I heard the team meeting today, gearing up and working on New Year's Eve. So there's a lot of things that take place for that holiday season. Make sure we have a great opportunities for the community and meeting those needs. That's on there.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to the second open session of the evening. If there's any member of the public that'd like to address the council on an item that's not on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, the open session is closed. There is no executive session this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Council Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Cowan. All those in favor? The council is adjourned.